Welcome. And the question today from Rabbit Effective is, what did the weird kid do to earn that reputation? Hi, this is Derek. I just put the Drama Llama, Fred, back in his llama pen, so that I can do this quick video for you with some of the stuff that Fred found on Reddit earlier today. Oh boy, let's get ready for some drama. Quitteth your shitteth answered with. Do a countdown to his farts like they were a effin' moon launch. Of all the things I thought I would find in this thread, inspiration wasn't one of them. Were they truly epic farts? Because some farts are worth the countdown. Menace 845 answered with. He was very into the fantasy of war games. He would get super excited when anyone would play along with him. We had over 5,000 students in the school and many people knew about him. And would pretend to shoot at him for a laugh due to his antics. It all had to stop when someone pretended to shoot him with a bazooka. And he jumped backwards down a flight of stairs from the explosion. Someone who is still unknown ran through the school with nothing on but a Spider-Man mask. He ran down the longest hallway we had, a quarter-mile long. Willy flopping in the wind, and no teacher or monitor could stop his majestic run. I salute the mysterious stranger in his majestic run. That last one hit me like a bazooka launching me down a flight of stairs. Epic Boy Colda answered with. Collected earthworms when it rained, in the pouch of his hoodie. And then laid them out in the schoolyard, spelling his own name. He cried when he saw that it had been scraped from the pavement the next day. By that time he was around 13. Predictably, we started calling him Worm Kid. He got expelled around a year later, for throwing a fistful of earth at a teacher. Edit, to elaborate on him having to leave the school. This act of dirt tossing happened inside of a classroom, at close proximity. When he'd been called to the blackboard during a Latin lesson, I'm from Europe. The teacher completely lost her poop. The moist soil was all in her hair, and she later said a couple of live beetles and little pebbles or bone splinters were also found in that mix. Though I can't say whether that's true. Darn, what a badass. He used his earthbending powers to attack a teacher. Worm Kid is probably out living in nature happily now. I got called a worm boy when I was younger too. I had to collect them for a school project, but people didn't know why I was. And just kept calling me that. I threw a dirt clod at a girl I had a crush on in 3rd grade. To this day, I don't really remember it. I think it knocked some of her teeth out. Many years later, I decided to look her up on MySpace and actually found her. Sent her a message to ask if it was too late to say I'm sorry. She had a good laugh and accepted. We're friends to this day. Taylor Inc. 8 answered with. He brought a live lobster to a middle school dance and let it go on the dance floor during the dance. Wasn't even a question of who would have done this. It was Nate. Nate did it. Antique Mule answered with. When we were about 15. Harrison, we were all addressed by our surnames. Decided one day to wrap his pecker in adhesive tape during a biology lesson. I can't remember why, nor how he managed to remove it, but I was impressed. He also held the record for stabbing into the desk between each finger of his outstretched hand. With a compass, a very sharp point, as fast as possible. Despite hitting a finger at least once. He later became a distinguished surgeon. Word around the operating room is that you have an adhesive pecker. Break the fifth wall answered with. I was the president of an improv club at my high school. The weird kid was a member. Now, remember that episode of The Office when Michael would interrupt every improv scene as a cop? It was like that, except this kid always had an evil/dark magic theme. Characters in the scenes turned out to be his evil brother from the Dark Outlands. Imaginary props would turn into mythic swords formed from shadows. But this kid was so desperately unpopular. No one had the heart to kick him out of the club. Hypnot answered with. He would bark like a dog when talked to. He probably had some mental problems, but most people just avoided him. Ferrets are us answered with. He would go around asking people. If you knew an alien that looked like X, Y, Z, and you really loved them, would you have sex with the alien? Alien description changed a lot from question to question. And if you answered him, he would keep asking the questions with different types of aliens. Key point being that you always shared an emotional connection with the alien. Poor kid was just trying to sort out his own alien fetish, I think. Edit, no kink shaming. Years down the line, that individual travels back to their home planet and walks up to a peer of theirs and says, "I've pulled the Earthlings and out of all the sentient beings in all the galaxies, you're the only one they won't F. Loser." He had definitely fallen for an alien and was looking for advice. Tough scene. I have pills answered with. A girl in my year at school told us that she has a ghost in her bedroom. And it told her that if she didn't brush her teeth it would burn her house down. Another girl said she wanted to have sex with our headmaster, but she was like 7 at the time. And she used to scratch people in the face like a cat. I held the door open for her once and she flipped me off and called me a effing bitch. That second girl may have been sexually abused at home, how sad. Arch skeptic answered with. He would put on sunglasses and stare at girls' chests. It was obvious. Were they transparent? They weren't transparent. He just had his entire head facing towards them, so it was pretty obvious to anyone looking. Sage Unwise answered with. The weird kid in my year. Started out as basically a meme. He was odd, socially isolated, talked to himself a little, nerdy, terrible at sports. Cannon fodder for the popular crowd. We were, and still are, friends though. Freshman year a joke starts going around that he should be prom king. Nobody takes it too seriously, but it's considered funny. French teacher picks it up and supports it. 4 years later he's been so heavily memed everyone loves him. And he gets elected homecoming king. Private Squid answered with. He thought he was a robot. Often you'd find him in the halls alone talking to electronics about destroying the human race. Or having a conversation with a locker. Fullrack Ferg answered with. Set his arm on fire on a school trip to France. Sprayed his arm with deodorant for about a whole minute before getting someone to light it. It wouldn't go out until he used the tap in the bathroom to douse it with water. He ended up with blisters and permanent scarring. So the school trip ends and we go back to school the week after. All of a sudden me and 4 other kids get pulled into a classroom to be questioned by police and the head teacher. He basically told his mom that we did it to him. Obviously this did not stick, as we all had the same story. If I had Facebook I would look him up, see how life is for him nowadays. Edit, forgot to say deodorant is what he used. Effing people like that. A classmate in elementary broke his arm doing dumb poop. And tried to frame us for it because he was embarrassed. He pulled some poop like that later in school life too. Lubberwords answered with. We were freshmen in an urban high school. He made increasingly wild claims like he had a bunch of illegal automatic weapons. He made poison darts and blowguns, his sensei could outrun an arrow fired from a bow. And he was learning how to do it. He had a nitro kit in his Trans Am that he used to outrun police. He transferred to another school. The next I heard of him 2 years later he had crashed into a brick wall. And died while fleeing the police. The report said he lost control when he engaged his nitro kit. Ryman Noodle answered with. He had a notoriety for pooping his pants at least once a day. And was super casual about it. I remember I was behind him in the hall one day when I saw a massive turd plop out of his short legs. He looked back at it and just kept on strutting. He was at a high level of not giving an F darn. You usually don't get to that point until you're old. Maybe he's not giving an F because he's too busy giving a poop. Idiots and Savages answered with. He was known for doing a ton of odd poop, but the only one I personally saw was when he ate a piece of gum that was stuck to the bottom of a kid's shoe. This was in high school. Mr. Professor PhD. Dude would wear a stormtrooper costume and taped an old flip-up phone to his arm and pretended to talk through it. This was in high school. He was particularly odd because he was like a born genius, so he'd often get bored in class and get up to some weird poop. Disconnectee answered with. He didn't have to do much to make a room feel uncomfortable. I'm pretty sure he was high-functioning autistic, but he was still a weirdo. On a day-to-day basis he would answer questions in class with long tangents. His cough was always like a seal. He brought his 3DS to class. And the teacher was always keeping a watchful eye over what he did on his phone or computer. I mean, he would get into arguments with the teacher about what he was doing with his devices. Even when we switched seats he was always close to the teacher. "Nate. I'm not. I'm just checking my email." Once he was playing music in class and forgot to plug in his headphones. Very clearly and loudly the Game Grumps animated intro played before it was muted. And I kinda felt like a dweeb for knowing what that was. But I would later find out he was caught watching porn in class. Hence why teachers had to watch him. Not normal porn either, I'm talking about Pikachu Rule 34. Chaco96 answered with. Pulled out his pubes or armpit hair one by one and ate them. That actually sounds like trichotillomania. It's a condition where you pull out your hair. Any hair. I've heard cases where people have eaten their hair too. And had to get surgery when it got stuck as a hairball in their intestines. But eating the pubic hair. Why? Burn after reading 41 answered with. Dyed her hair jet black, used a nearly white foundation. Black eyeliner, hissed at everyone. Little did she know, she wasn't the only one forced into that prep school. In hopes that the strict Catholic teachings and a near century of academic excellence turn her into a functional member of society. She may have been the weird kid for all of us prep schoolers. But once you got past that icy facade in eccentric fashion, she was a blast, a little dark and made no secret about being a Wiccan. But she was fun. Stupid idiot face answered with. Dark gothy girl apparently dug up a really old family grave. Understood to be an old slave burial. And took a finger bone, which was observed on her necklace. The grave site was located on a hill in the back of a place everyone drove their four-wheelers and trucks. Practically in the middle of the woods. She was already seen leaving the graveyard at like 2 a.m. by a lot of us when we had bonfires going. Then someone found a plot damaged a few weeks later. The graves were super old and apparently caskets were made cheaply. Or with bare minimum material. Well, there you have it. A perfectly great question answered by a bunch of fine and honorable citizens. Help support this channel by smashing the like and subscribe buttons. And hit that silly little bell as well to ensure you get the latest videos as they come out. Fred is always finding stuff for me to post regularly. So this is Derek signing off, thanks for watching. Good grief, it sounds like Fred is out of his pen again. I think he found more drama for me to share with you. See you soon.